Hi Guava Bees, and welcome to another episode of the Dear Guava Bean podcast. Remember, submit your questions in the Guava box or on the website, and we could be answering yours in the next episode. I'm Francesca, and with me is Claire.
Hello.
And today's question is, Dear Guava Bean, I've heard some freelancers recommend working for free to get experience and reviews. Others tell me not to work for free because it will undervalue my services. What do you recommend? Okay, this is really interesting because I know this is such a divisive topic. Some people really swear by this. If you're a beginner freelancer and you're looking to get some testimonials, other people say absolutely don't do this because, just like this person said, I've heard that people say undervalues your services. What's your opinion, Claire, on this?
I agree. It's super decisive. I have a very firm opinion, but I also want to hear where you stand on this. Are you for or against working for free? But I will tell you mine. So I am actually against working for free. I am on that side of the fence because I have personally worked for free and it has not worked out. And I've also seen other people work for free and it hasn't worked out. And so I just have a few experiences. I think it really depends on your experience. If you work for free and you have a positive experience, then you're going to recommend it. But for me, I've actually done it a couple times and it's always kind of been a negative experience. And so now I don't even recommend anybody to do it. Even if you're a brand new freelancer, I still say get paid. What about you?
Okay, so I've got a couple of opinions on this. I generally agree that working for free is not good because I think once you're advertising that you're basically giving away your services, then it's going to make people think, why should I bother paying you then? If you're just able to do this for no money, then I'm not going to pay you. Or, they might think that it's they can get away with basically paying you a pittance for your services, which require a lot of skill. But I think there's a few exceptions. So when you work for free, I think it can be good to do this if you're branching out into something that you've never done and you want to practice. So this could be maybe your friends and family might be able to help you practice your skills, and you might want to offer this for free because it doesn't feel uncomfortable to do so. I also think sometimes there are, and I've briefly mentioned this in another podcast, you can have memberships to groups that allow you to practice your skills for free in exchange for a testimonial that you can then use somewhere else, like on your professional website, for example. So I think there's certain circumstances that it's okay, but generally if you've worked really hard on, developing a skill, you have been paid for it in the past in like a traditional role, or you've worked for someone before and you're setting up your business, no, I don't think you should work for free because your time and your effort and your experience is worth money and you should be paid for it. And the kinds of clients that don't want to pay you are not worth working for, in my opinion.
So have you ever worked for free?
Yeah, I have worked for free, but I would say that firmly comes under the branch of expanding into something new that I've never done professionally before. And it was in exchange for feedback. And it was just private feedback. It wasn't published anywhere. It wasn't like a job website or anything like that. But it's just privately for me to use if I want to, and to actually help me develop my skills as well. And I think that's okay. I mean, maybe what's worse than working for free is working for an incredibly painful low rate, which I have done and would never recommend. And that was when I was first starting out as a freelancer. What about you, Claire? Have you ever done it for free?
Yes, I have. And before I'll tell you my story, I don't want to shame anyone away from working for free because, like you said, it's a great way to expand and to get into new services or new things that you don't have experience in yet. I only don't recommend it because I feel like sometimes it's hard to get that work. You're gonna whatever, even if it's a free client or a paid client, you're still going to have to go through the work of getting that client, making them happy, all the same work that you would do for a paid client. So the first time I worked for free, I was just starting out as a freelancer and I didn't know what I was going to do yet. I had done a little bit of copywriting and some proofreading. And then a friend of mine suggested that I do social media management. And she said, I know a lot of companies that could use this service. You could do well at it and charge for it every month. And I was like, okay, that sounds good. Like a typical freelance thing. So I just said yes. And she said, I have someone that you could start with. He's a friend of mine. He's a photographer. You can help him post on his Instagram and Facebook page and get more engagement and followers. And, you could do it for free since you don't have experience yet, and you could learn how to do it that way. And I thought, okay, that sounds like a great idea. And so for about like 2 or 3 months, I did the social media for free. And I didn't know what I was doing. So I'm kind of glad that I didn't charge for it. But at the same time, I was helping. Like I was providing a service. People were liking the photos. They were following the page. And so after a few months of working for free, I finally got up the courage to ask to get paid. And even then, I asked for so little, so much less than what I knew was worth my time and effort. But ultimately, I just ended up leaving that job and just leaving that work and that client. And it was, I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that when you don't get paid for it, I don't feel, maybe this is just me, but I don't feel invested in that work the same way. If nobody's investing in my time to do that work, then why would I invest my time to do that work for somebody else? And I know that I would do this if I'm getting a testimonial or something out of it. But in this situation, I wasn't. It was just practice. So after doing that for a few months and getting paid a tiny bit, I was finally this isn't worth my time. I don't enjoy it. And I stopped doing it. And then I think if I had gone into that situation, charging upfront for my work, I would have valued that person more as a client, and I would have put more effort and energy into their social media, and it might have still ended out the same way, but at least I would feel valued for it. And I think that's the reason why ultimately I walked away from that job, because I don't feel for me, it's important to be paid well in order to know that my clients appreciate me. If my clients aren't willing to pay me well, I don't feel appreciated. And I don't feel valued. So that's my issue. But that was the first time I worked for free and it didn't work out. And then I did it again a few years later when I was doing marketing and Facebook ads, and I had kind of found my niche. And I was at a gym, and the gym owner was a friend of mine, and he wanted to increase his gym memberships. And so I was like, okay, I'll help you do that for free. He was a friend of mine, and I thought it would be a nice little thing to do for him. But it totally backfired on me. And, he was expecting something we didn't have that conversation where we sit down and say, this is what I charge and this is what you'll get for it. So he was expecting a lot more. He wanted me to help him fill up his seminars and sell tickets.
Oh, wow.
And stuff like that. And I was like, whoa, I was just going to run a few ads to get a few more people to show up at your gym. Uh-huh. So we ended up having a falling out over it. And he thought that I didn't do the work properly. And I thought that he was, being a little bit unrealistic and demanding. When somebody's doing work for free, you can't really tell them, I need you to do this by this time. But that was kind of the relationship that happened. And so after that, I was just I'm going to charge people for my time, because otherwise they don't value it. And it's not his fault. It's my fault for not having that conversation. But after a few times of doing this, and it always kind of backfired on me in a weird way, that I always felt more stress and more dissatisfaction and more resentment from those types of jobs than if I had actually just charged money and gotten paid for it. But I always felt guilty for some reason for like charging my friends or for asking for money for something that I didn't know how to do. And so I think that's where working for free sometimes comes from. And if it comes from that place of like feeling insecure about your work, then it's not a good idea. But if it comes from a place like you of, choosing to do this to get a testimonial and to advance your career, then absolutely, then it's a career move.
Absolutely. And I think that's the defining part of it. When you've mentioned like your bad experiences, which I'm really sorry to hear about that because that sucks, to fall out with someone especially. But I think this is the problem. Like with freelancing, it's always nice to be, whether it's a friend that you already had before you work together, or if it's a friend that you make through freelancing and they're your client and you become friends with them. It's always really important to remember that it is a business, you are providing a service, and so your time should be worth money, and I do think that it can be negative and there can be like this bad energy that surrounds that kind of setup if you aren't clear, because you're right, if you're working for free you can't exactly you almost feel like you're in this situation where you can't set boundaries. Mm-hmm. And it's the same for the client as well. Like there's no clarity, because if you're exchanging money, like it's more likely that the client is going to be super clear on what they want, and you sign a contract and like what your expectations are, and if it goes over that then you have a conversation and end up maybe charging more or revising the contract, that kind of thing. But if the money element is taken out of that, it just becomes really muddy, like there's no definite brief for the work, and then in a way maybe the client, whoever they are, might feel like they can sort of ask more and more of you, but you feel like you can't say no because there's no money, there's no boundary set. So I think it can be really tricky. And money isn't a bad thing. Like I don't agree that being a freelancer should just be about the money, obviously, but it's an important element of it. You've spent a lot of time, like you mentioned, which is a really good point, not just doing the work but doing the work to get the work, and that takes a lot of time and effort. So yeah, I do think in most cases, yeah, you should be charging, for your work, definitely. Like I've already said, the only times where I really think it's okay to do it for free is if you are getting something in return that you're actually going to be able to use as part of your business, like a testimonial. Another thing which I think can be really good is a skill swap. So technically, I guess that isn't really like client freelancer work, but perhaps you might be helping a fellow freelancer, or somebody who's looking to build up their business as well. And maybe you have a skill that they really want and vice versa. So you're not actually exchanging money, but I really love the idea of this, I guess, free work. But instead of exchanging money, you're exchanging a skill. And so you both benefit, but no money ever changes hands. And I love that. I think more people should do that instead of just slogging away for free and never really getting anything out of it, other than sort of some experience which may or may not help. So yeah, that would be like my advice, would be potentially if you can find someone to swap skills with. I actually really love that. Also, like as I was just saying about the skill swap and the fact that you've had such bad experiences with clients who you've worked for free for, that experience you get when you're working for free may not in the long term even help you, because if you're working for a certain type of client who are happy not to pay you, they're probably not going to be the ideal client that you end up wanting to work for. And so it's probably, other than maybe a few practical skills, it's not really going to help you figure out like what you want from your business and like help you niche down or build out your referral network or anything like that, because the relationship is kind of based on this imbalance, where you're just helping someone else for free and you're not getting anything from it. It's not a mutual agreement. But yeah, so I would, that's just my thoughts on it really. If it's something that you want to do, that's cool, but I think a skill swap is probably like my favorite thing if I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, you're right. A skill swap is a very cool way to get experience if you can. And I do think you're right about the imbalance. Like, it's important to start a relationship on a balanced footing. And so, whatever that is for you, if you're happy to get the experience or the training, then it's balanced. But as long as you feel it's balanced, I think with me, I didn't feel it was balanced. And so that's why I ended up ultimately resenting the projects that I did for free, because I knew that I could get paid for this. Like, I wasn't great at it, but it was good enough to be paid. And so I felt like I was undervaluing myself. It had nothing to do with the other people, but everything to do with me not feeling like I was qualified to be paid. And so I thought that I needed to work for free in order to get experience. And I think that is what I try to tell people, like counsel them away from, that feeling of I'm not good enough to get paid for this yet, and so I need to work for free. And I know this comes from people who have been freelancing, who are really good at it. And sometimes people will try to offer me work for free. And I will tell them, like, you need to get paid for this. And they would say, no, I don't have experience in this yet, so I'm willing to do it for free to learn. But I still say to them, no, no, no. Your time is valuable. It doesn't matter if you have experience yet. Your time is valuable. If you are spending time on something, you should get rewarded for that time, even if it's just experience or reviews or training and skills that you can use. But there has to be some type of mutual reward for that. And I think you're 100% right about how money complicates things. I didn't know how doing stuff for free complicates things, because there are no boundaries, there is no expectations and contract and communication around what you get and what you give. And so, ironically, I think actually having money simplifies the exchange. It makes things very clear, and it makes things very simple, and it allows both people to say what they want to say. You know, if I'm getting paid, then I will do the work that you want me to do. But if I'm not getting paid, I might not do that work. And so having the money on the table, even though it's uncomfortable, like for me, it was so uncomfortable at the beginning to charge for these services. I felt so uncomfortable that I would rather work for free than have that awkward conversation where I'd be like, hey, by the way, would you mind paying me for my time? Like, I just felt so awkward. And I think that was something that I needed to get over. And I think a lot of freelancers in the beginning need to get over that idea that you need experience before you can start charging for your time. Like, obviously you shouldn't do work that you don't know how to do, but if you have a conversation with the client, you can give them a really good discounted rate and still get paid.
Yeah, honestly, I agree. I mean, where you said about the confidence, I think that is such a huge part of it. I think the sooner you start charging for your services, the better, because even though, like, I've been there too, Claire, like feeling like you're asking for money to do something, even though, like, it's a business, that's why you're doing what you do, it still feels or felt awkward for a long time to do that. But as soon as you start doing that and getting in the habit of being strong and, you know, standing your ground and saying, this is what I'm charging for this service, you know, the sooner you're going to be able to build up that confidence and it won't feel so awkward anymore, you know. But if you continue on this path of just thinking that you can just constantly do free work, you know, you're not helping yourself, because you're like, honestly, you put it perfectly, you just feel like you're not worth paying. You know, if somebody's willing to just ask you to do something for free and you say yeah, there's no, when is that moment that comes that goes, actually, I'm going to stop working for free now and you're going to pay me because I'm worth it. You know, it does complicate things, basically, is what I'm trying to say. And also another thing that I just thought about was, just think about like the wider consequences of actually doing a lot of free work. You know, I actually think, because I'm not going to suggest that certain platforms are bad, but some platforms are like a race to the bottom in terms of freelancers pricing themselves really low to get work. I think if people offer a lot of free work in a certain niche or a certain industry, that industry then becomes really badly paying, because lots of freelancers are offering the same services as, for free as paid people are. So like, where's the difference? A client's probably, in a lot of freelancers' mind, the client would rather go for someone who's not charging a lot. I mean, obviously that's not strictly true, because it depends on how good you are at what you do, and people can charge a high price for, if they're an expert in their area. But generally speaking, like, entry level freelancers, I think, do really struggle with that, because a lot of people would just work for free, or work for peanuts, and it can be quite damaging to, future freelancers in some areas, definitely. So I would always, encourage people to charge what they're worth, definitely. And it is hard, like, it's not easy to do that, but the more you practice, the easier that gets.
Yeah, and like you said, you're going to have to do it eventually, whether you do it now or you work for free for 3 months and then you have that awkward conversation. You're going to have to face that moment and have that awkward conversation where you ask to get paid. And so you're kind of just kicking the problem down the road by working for free. And, maybe you'll feel more comfortable asking for money in 3 months from now. But think about the 3 months of time that you would save, and you would make money on those 3 months if you had just started getting paid right away. And so my advice is just from my personal experience. If I, could go back in time and give myself advice, I would just say, don't work for free, because you are worth getting paid. Like, your time is valuable. And the more you get paid, the more you will value your services. The better you will treat your clients, the better you'll work. And that leads to better work and to better clients and ultimately to what you want. And we all want to get paid. So why do anything else? I think it's important for people to hear this, because unfortunately I see a lot of people recommending that freelancers work for free in the beginning. I see a lot of people saying that, you need to be willing to work for free or to work for really low rates in order to get started. And like you said, sometimes it is a race to the bottom. Sometimes there is that false sense of competition that gets promoted in this industry, and it really hurts freelancers. It hurts the people who want to charge, but maybe they're thinking, oh, this client can get it for free somewhere else, or they will get it cheaper somewhere else. And so I have to charge less in order to get this job. Or maybe I even have to work for free in order to impress this client. And ultimately, in my experience, what I found is that the best clients, they're willing to pay and they want to pay. They don't want to work with someone who will work for free, because they know that they're going to be demanding. They know that they're going to want something from you, and they want that exchange to be balanced. Like, now that I'm a business owner, I have people emailing GUAVABEAN and offering to work for free, and offering to collaborate or to do this or that, to write blog posts, and to do a lot of people try to get like free internships, or they just want to contribute and give their work for free. And as much as I would like, to help these people, ultimately I don't agree to this, because I think that everybody should get paid. And I want to work with people who see the value in themselves and who are willing to stand up for that value, even if it's difficult, like even if it's uncomfortable. I think it's an important part of being a successful freelancer. And so I would never want anyone to do anything that would not make them successful. And working for free, it doesn't mean that it won't make you successful, but it's not going to get you what you really want, which is to live, like an abundant lifestyle where you get paid well for the work that you do. And so for me, I would just say, do it if it's an equal exchange, but only do it if you are 100% happy with what you're going to get out of the relationship. If you're doing it because you feel like you have to do it, or because you need to do it, or because other people are telling you to do it, don't do it. That's not the right reason. Those are not the right reasons to work for free.
I agree. I think it's important to remember that exchanging money also helps you learn about boundaries and how to handle clients in a proper business setting as well. When you're working for free, you don't really learn anything like that. I think also working for free can also make people think that freelancing is not a lucrative or not a successful choice, when it is. It just depends on your mindset and the way that you conduct your business. And I think in most cases, I think working for free, I agree with you, is not really helping that. It doesn't inspire a lot of confidence and a lot of encouragement in people. I think it's the opposite. I think it does actually make people think that they haven't got a chance because they want to charge a certain amount for their money when other people are doing it for free, where absolutely it isn't like that at all. You can, as long as you're charging for what you're worth, then you are going to learn a lot and grow your business. So yeah, I agree with you, Claire.
Yeah. And just remember, like, your ideal clients want to pay you. They don't actually want to work with someone for free. Even if I met someone that I really liked, I wouldn't be able to work with them if they insisted on working for free. Like, I pay everybody just because I believe in that exchange. And I think you should work with people who believe in that too. Whenever you find someone who is like happy to get work for free, that's not going to be a great client for you.
No, and if I see someone saying that they'll offer some work for someone in exchange for the exposure, again, I'm going to scream, because I hate that. Like, that is just horrible to me. And I agree. I think people should be paid for their time and their effort, because exposure isn't a real thing. You can't pay your rent with exposure. So
yes, I love that. And you're right. That makes me so angry when I see people posting jobs and then they don't mention the rate, and then you're like, so how much does this job pay? Oh, it's an unpaid position, but it's great exposure.
Yeah, no, hate that. Oh my God, yeah. Cannot deal with that.
Yeah, it just sets bad terms. Like, it just sets a bad foundation for the relationship. You need to start on equal footing, and there needs to be an equal exchange of, whatever that is. But yeah, working for exposure, working for free, working for experience and reviews, those are all tricky ones to deal with. I think it's a case-by-case situation. You have to decide, does this help me get closer to my goals? Is this going to help me make the kind of money that I want to make and work with the clients that I want to work with? And if so, then do it. Like, anything that gets you closer to your goals, do that. But if ultimately it's just holding you back from what you know you have to do, and you're just kind of killing time until you have to actually start charging for your services, you might as well just like rip the Band-Aid off and start now, because you're going to have to do it anyways. We all have to learn how to find paying clients. That is a skill every freelancer has to develop. There's no shortcut. So the sooner you start, the sooner you'll get there.
We hope you enjoyed listening to the Dear Guava Bean podcast. Don't forget to subscribe and follow Guava Bean on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter for updates and new episodes. As always, our goal is to empower you with the information, inspiration, and direction you need to achieve financial freedom through online work. For more content like this, join us in the Guava Bean Freelancer Toolbox. Just go to guavabean.com to start your free trial now. Thanks for listening and supporting the podcast. See you in the next episode.